welcome back. This is the presentation about refraction effects in the homogeneous Atmosplane. Jeranism decides to bring Ranty in to do a presentation for 2 hours. Yeah, I watched the whole 2 hours. So anyway, that's not the whole point of this. It was long, but Ranty kept me interested the whole time. What I'm worried about is the
homogeneous Atmosplane.
You know, I understand they don't want to use atmosphere because it depicts a sphere, but to use homogeneous, I think our atmosphere, or even an Atmosplane, is more heterogeneous in terms of constantly changing. There are other things in the atmosphere other than just air, just gases. There is water, there is ice, so it's more heterogeneous than homogeneous, but, you know, the whole point of this presentation is refraction anyway. Ranty doesn't like to use the word refraction, nor does any other flat earther for that matter, because it does explain things just too easily. They also complain that globe earthers use refraction too much to explain things. Yeah, we do. We do use refraction because it does explain things. It's like us using gravity. You know, that other thing you guys don't like too well. Yeah, we use gravity because it explains everything. Why use another word? But, again, I'll go back to the presentation because it's all about refraction, and it's Ranty's opinion and views on what is actually happening, besides refraction, of course. So let's check it out. Let's see what Ranty has to do. By the way, I'm Jonni Glitch, and I'm on a quest for conspiracy nonsense.
But anyway, let's introduce Ranty. Ranty, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Jaren. How are you?
Doing great. Happy to have you. You're a friend of the show. This is not your first time here, so...
Already? You gotta be a friend of the show to get invited to Jeranism. I guess I'm not gonna get an invite after this video.
Just, I suppose, concentrating on my show now. So, you know, essentially I am sort of socializing with the enemy, so to speak. So, you know, I do invite ballers to come on and do presentations and tell us all about their model and how it works and how they see things. And, you know, so essentially, you know, I get plenty of flat earthers on. I have plenty of chit-chat shows. But essentially, my main priority was to get these presentations.
Yeah, so Ranty starts his presentation by looking at some wind turbines all in a row. Somebody went even further and made some 3D modeling of the same wind turbines and sent it to Ranty, I suppose, but I don't know why they're using this image at all. I don't know why they're examining this. Those wind turbines are obviously too close together. You can't tell if there's a curve or a straight line or whatever. The blades are all over the place. So, in my opinion, this image is irrelevant to the case for anything. I mean, there are way more images out there they could have used. You know, images like this one. Yeah, what's wrong with this image? Oh man, I definitely would have used this image. But because the images of the other wind turbines was so irrelevant to anything, I went ahead and bypassed it. He was trying to determine if there was a curve or no curve, and then ultimately he says, see, you can't tell there's a curve, so why use it? So basically he's stopped his own presentation. So I moved on. See what else Ranty had to say.
Talk about that. So I'm going to talk about essentially it's to do with light and refraction. Now help me out here, Jaren.
Okay.
But would I be right in saying that the properties of light basically aren't very well understood?
I don't think they are at all, no. Please continue with the presentation.
Okay, right. So, this is obviously the research into the inferior mirage. So, what's going on here? Well, the fold on this top image here, which is basically it's the same location, same observer height, same tide height. Everything was the same. Even the conditions on the ocean, actually, they said the same sort of waves on the same day. Sorry, a different day, but the same kind of waves. It was almost identical. The only difference was this had an inferior mirage on this day.
Identical? Say, what? Those pictures don't look the same at all. I don't understand what he's talking about. The same day, same kind of conditions, same wave conditions. Clearly there's a difference there, Ranty. One's clear, one's an inferior mirage. There's a lot of surface activity going on. There's a lot of atmospheric activity going on. I don't think you're going to convince everybody that these two images were of the same conditions. But let's press on.
And when we look at this, and people will say, well, how can people believe that this is being loomed up and this is reality? You know, this smudge at the top is reality if you believe the globe, and yet when you see this bottom image where it's really clear,
Refraction.
And yeah, refraction, it's being loomed up.
Right.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you don't like the blurry mirage-filled image? You actually like the clear image that is nice and clear? Then why all the fuss over this blurry and distorted image? Yeah, you remember this one, right? The one that all flat earthers claimed was the end-all image destroying the globe Earth, and everyone flocked to it like insects to a light bulb.
No! Harry, no! Don't look at the light! I can't help it. It's so beautiful.
So let me get this straight. Now you're changing your mind. No more crazy blurred images, huh? Well, how about this image? Don't like it? Why not? No mirage here, no crazy distortion effects, no apparent atmospheric conditions playing havoc with your eyes. You guys really need to make up your minds. Is this right, or is this one right? You know, I'm done with this nonsense. Moving on. So Jaren and Ranty continue their discussion on refraction and looming, and the reasons why looming really doesn't happen at all. After discussing all the two reasons why looming is not a thing, they're presented with the green laser in the sugar water experiment again, and are reminded that light actually does bend in a medium. After watching the experiment, they had but one comment.
So that was his point of that presentation. Now,
If we lived in sugar water, yeah.
If we lived in sugar water, exactly, but we don't live in sugar water.
yeah, if we lived in sugar water, that's good. I know, it's hard being envious of those who can actually demonstrate what happens in the real world. Don't worry, I'm sure you guys can come up with a better experiment that explains how images bend, and they bend into view over long distances, or not. Matter of fact, sugar water is just an example of mediums.
Now, this clip is the kaleidoscope clip. Now, this is how I sort of envisage what we're seeing, which is that there's no looming, but everything that we can see is being manipulated. What we can't see, we'll get to that. But things being loomed up beyond the curve just doesn't happen. But what we do see, in reality, a lot of times, is this kind of.
Whoa! A kaleidoscope. Well, this is different. I don't think I've ever seen a flat Earth present a kaleidoscope to explain looming. So this could be interesting.
Effect where you can have this manipulation going on. I've got this woman here with lots of different heads around. A bit of looming here. All this kind of weird stuff going on. But you have to be seeing the person to actually get the rest of this from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but even though we see one object, we still get one looming effect. We don't even get a double looming effect unless an inferior mirage is in place, reflecting the light, giving like a mirror look. But kaleidoscopes.
Yeah, interesting.
You can't put her head out of the screen and then expect the camera to make this kind of picture.
You do realize kaleidoscopes work solely on the principle of reflection, right? That means the mirrors inside the kaleidoscope absolutely must see the image in order to reflect it to some other location. That's just how kaleidoscopes work. Refraction can and does bring objects or entire background into view. No doubt about that. But refraction and reflection are two completely different things. Well, the kaleidoscope effect, my argument would be if you already see the object or need to see the object before it can loom, then that kind of defeats the description of looming, doesn't it? I mean, if you already see the object, there's no need for it to loom. You already see it. Why would it loom if it's already in view? So I think the kaleidoscope thing doesn't work in that respect. Also, objects are hidden from view. Yeah. And in your kaleidoscope example, they can't be hidden. Yeah, on a flat Earth, there's nothing to hide the object, is there? So in order for an object to be hidden, there must be something to hide it. Like this. There's something clearly hiding that object. And it comes into view on its own. It's not looming, it just comes into view. And unfortunately, the word refraction fits here. Refraction fits this example. Refraction fits the definition of what's happening here. So think about that. It can't be hidden if there's nothing to hide it. Otherwise, it's hidden by something that's hiding it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that makes sense, I hope. Do you realize that refraction is not working upon just one object to bring it into view? Everybody seems to be focusing on just one object they're looking at in the viewfinder. So you're looking at one object in a camera, you're thinking that refraction is only working on that one object. Refraction works on the entire atmosphere. The entire scene in front of you is getting manipulated by different air layers and densities and temperatures that create a refractive index enough to bend everything over a curved surface and into view of the observer. We're not talking about a simple one-layer lens here. We're not talking about some simple magnifying experiment. We're talking about the entire air mass between you and the object you're looking at. That is a lot of air, and a lot is happening in that very large space between you and that object. If you think objects can't loom just because you can't see it, then you need to be more open-minded to the fact that we humans are tiny little specks on this planet. And this planet does not care what you're looking at or what you cannot see. Okay, enough with the kaleidoscope reflection project. Let's move on. Next, Randy brings in another experiment involving a random object that's going to be brought into view by a temperature inversion. The creator of this experiment is a ball earther, is what Randy calls him, a globe earther anyway. And what he's doing is showing the curve of his driveway, or the looking over his driveway down at this object, and how the object comes back into view after he pours some cold water on the driveway. So let's check this out.
Let me speed it up. So here we go. He says it's seen over the curve. This is his claim. It's a glober that did this. So there's where he claims the horizon is, or the edge of the step, or whatever it is that he's looking over. And what he's going to do now is he's going to splash some water on this. And I want you to see the change that happens. He's going to claim that there's looming going on in refraction right now. So here's the water going on, and now we see a change.
Now, Ranty has already proclaimed that he doesn't care what the results are, basically. So what the guy did was pour water pretty close to the camera, where the curvature is on his driveway, and that's exactly where refraction would occur, at the curve. On the globe model, it's a constant curve, so it would always be curved. But obviously on this driveway, there's just a bend, and that's it. So yeah, I think he's pouring water in the right place. So let's hear what Randy has to say.
It's settled down. I'm just going to pause it there. There we go. Can you see the change in the two?
Yep. Now you can see the whole clip.
Yep, now you can see the whole bit. So you've probably seen this one before, Jaron?
No, I don't think I've seen that video.
So there's the original on the right before he pours the water on. Let's go to the next one where he's got where he's not moved the camera. The camera stayed exactly the same. Everything stayed the same. The only thing he's changed is the temperature between the step and what you're trying to observe. So let me just get it back up to there. So there we go. And straight away you can see a huge difference, right? So let me crop this.
And is this on a curved surface or this is on a flat surface?
Well, he claims that it's on a slight decline. That's what his claim is. I don't see it being that way. What I see here is this effect of the light, because this is a warmer area. This is a step here, this is step, and this is still the step. Now this is nice and warm, so this light is trying to get to the camera that we're seeing it through. So we're trying to see this clip, right? And
no, actually, we're trying to see every single thing in that image, not just the clip. The background image, the driveway, the clip, that object, every single thing is being acted upon by refraction, not just the clip or that object.
it's being distorted. This is definitely being distorted. Now, is it being distorted because it's been loomed up? He claims it's being loomed up. Well, let's just check that.
Well, before we see what he's checking here, Ranty, if you missed it, Ranty is claiming the image on the left is already stretched and distorted before the experiment even begins. Now, here is where he cropped everything, and I want you to see this. He claims that this image was stretched in the beginning and then compressed. But does that also mean everything else in the background was also compressed? Because you see this detail right here, these lines, 1, 2, with this slanted line, is right at the driveway mark right here. Right at it. Now look over here, which is this area right here. This is also going up and brings in a new set of lines in the texture of the concrete itself. Here you cannot see it. So he said this image was stretched. So he must also be saying the entire background is stretched to begin with. How does he know that? See, the problem with this is the original experiment did not set the parameters of the experiment. He did not detail the parameters by showing us this object by itself, like sitting on a table or sitting in his garage, or have a controlled image of this object. So we really don't know if it was stretched or compressed or what's going on here. So we can only say that the object is in its natural state at the beginning of the experiment. Ranty automatically assumes the opposite. He assumes the object is already stretched, yet he doesn't even know the condition of the object. He's assuming it. And because he's a flat earther, he assumes whatever fits his agenda. He has no idea of the original condition of this object. This reminds me of another experiment done that actually does show the object. Let's check that one out.
Let's have a look at an experiment. This is a cylinder with 3 different colors of clay on it. Now we place this clay cylinder with the 3 colors behind this bottle, and as you see, only the green is visible. The red clay is clearly behind the curve of the bottle. Now we take a little liquid butane, which not only is quite cold but a little denser than air, and set up a temperature inversion over that bottle. You see how the red pops up? Let's have a look again with a little more butane on that bottle and see how that red comes out. That's the red reflected off of that red clay being curved around the rim of that bottle, much like things can be curved over the horizon on the Earth with a temperature inversion. Now here is a similar experiment where we have a bright light behind that same bottle. As you can see, the angle of the camera is that the light itself is hidden. But now let's add some butane to the top of the bottle. We have the light arcing around in the refraction, and we also have it bouncing off the boiling liquid butane. The video across Monterey Bay is very suggestive of this type of a process with refraction and droplets of water in the air.
Yeah, interesting how the object is not stretched before the experiment starts at all. Interesting. Ranty brings us yet another presentation, and in this one he tries to explain how refraction works on a flat plane. Yes, he's using a flat Earth model. That's okay. I've got my own presentation to bring in. I'll tell you what refraction is in a nutshell right after his presentation.
Tower, and here we go. This is what you'd see essentially. So with atmosphere, so this would be the middle tower, that would be the third tower. You might just see the top part of it, but the rest of it just would never, the light would never get there. It would just be being pulled down. Now this is the Glober's own research. This is how they see light, you know, light bending down through the gradients on a homogeneous plane. This is what I've been asking, and on a homogeneous plane, George Netanuk last night, had him on my channel, asked him this same question, another Glober. On a homogeneous plane, what would happen? Light bends down.
Well, is there really such thing as a homogeneous plane, or are you referring to a homogeneous atmosplane? And if you think about it, a homogeneous atmosplane is really not that much different from a heterogeneous atmosphere, is it? They both have temperature gradients, they both have temperature inversions. I'm sure they both would have the same thing.
Here we go. So this is obviously what you'd see. So there's these three images here, looking through these gradients. This is what you'd end up resulting in seeing on a flat plane, not a globe. This is just on a flat plane, using the trajectory of light through the mediums, and it actually just never get into the observer.
And why would it be different if the observer climbed a hill? So your observer on the right, he climbs a little bit of hill, he's going to see more of the bottom of those towers, correct?
Well, yeah, he'd be seeing more of the towers, so he'd be getting himself out of the gradient, so it would take longer for these gradients to have an effect. It's why when people like J. Tolan Media go up high up in the atmosphere, high up on the planes and stuff, or the long distance photography, how high were they up when they did that? Was it 20,000 feet or something? They weren't anywhere close to this warm area, this atmosphere at the bottom. They weren't near any of that. They were 20,000 feet up, 30,000 feet up in a plane. Jay Tolan Media, he can see, what is it, 600-700 miles with his infrared. You've got the guy with the long distance photography, is it over 300 miles that he's seeing from like 20,000 feet?
Again, he wasn't 20,000 feet. Look at the picture.
Well, up there, you know, the temperature's pretty much the same. The gradients, you don't have this huge gradient shift from the bottom, say 20 meters or so.
Wow, interesting, huh? Well, I've got my own ideas about refraction. Now, I was going to show my whole presentation, but it's like 10 minutes long. Here's a sample of that presentation that I made. Yeah, I'm not going to show you the whole presentation. I decided I'll just save that one for a whole nother video. So what I'm going to do is give you a very short version of what I believe refraction is. Alright, this is Jonni Glitch's version of what refraction is in the universe. Okay, first of all, Ranty brought us this presentation of the flat Earth model and layers of temperature gradients and layers in the atmosphere. In his words, the Atmosplane. But anyway, if light projects through this atmosphere, this atmosplane, it immediately gets caught by refraction and starts bending down. Okay, cool. I get that. So the flat Earth relies basically on anti-refraction, which brings light straight to the observer. That's on a flat Earth. I get what he's saying, no problem. If you haven't figured it out, this is Ranty's homogeneous atmosplane. Cool. Okay, here's my version of it. We are actually on a curved surface. If light projects through the atmosphere, it's going to reach the observer. But what we all seem to not realize is light doesn't travel in one tight beam like this. It is not a laser beam. Anything in the image that's projecting through the atmosphere is not a laser beam. It's the entire face of the image. The whole image, from sea level up to where we're seeing, is that the entire image. That gets projected through the atmosphere. The whole image does. Okay, we got that. Let's move on. Now, here what we have, the observer on the right-hand side. We have his line of sight, which will bring us the horizon right here. Don't worry about this blue line. It's just a parallel line to his line of sight. Now, light from the image, or the image itself, wants to project through the atmosphere in a straight line. That's what light wants to do. But, as we all know, once light goes through, it begins to refract due to the atmosphere, due to temperature gradients, temperature inversions, and ultimately goes down like that. Oh, does that mean we never see the object? No, it does not. I think, again, this is where everybody gets it wrong. Once the image is projected through the atmosphere and reaches a state at which it's pointing directly at the observer, right there, that's where the observer sees the image that is projected through the atmosphere. Even though the light's going to carry on, or the image will keep projecting and be bent by refraction, the observer has already seen the object back here, the image. Now that's got to be perpendicular, or actually parallel to his line of sight, and that's where this line comes in. This is perpendicular to his line of sight. So if we line the face up with that perpendicular image, which will probably be back here somewhere, let's line that up. Okay, say that's close enough. See, the face of the image is perpendicular to his line of sight, which means it is transversing or projecting parallel to his line of sight. That's where the observer sees the image. So what we do is, now we just take the image, line it up, the little man is on sea level, line up the curvature of the Earth, or the shape of the Earth if you like, color whatever you want, and right about there. Anything above the yellow line is what the observer sees. That's what is being done. The face of that image is right there. Now we have to make sure that the image is actually below. Yeah, it's actually below. We have to keep the image within the confines of the image layer. So the little man is actually, the layer is a little lower. But anyway, you get the idea. So that's about where the image will be seen by the observer. And see the little man? He is almost, the yellow line is almost to his arm. So because the image did not grow or get bigger when it got closer to the observer still perceives this entire image to be way back here. Right about there. And that's where he perceives the image he is seeing. That's why we call it looming. So does looming actually happen? Not really. It's just a perception. It's what's apparently happening. That's the only way to describe what's going on. So that's refraction in a nutshell. The face of the image is what we see. No matter where the image goes from there, at that point is where we see the image. That's refraction in a nutshell. Just remember, this is one scenario of refraction. Due to the dynamic nature of our atmosphere, conditions are going to change by the hour. So refraction is going to be different every day by the hour. So it'll either bend light, or the image will be bent before that point or after that point. It's going to change every time. So this is just one scenario of many infinite number of scenarios. And I'll also explain why the horizon seems to have risen as well. Why does the horizon loom? Or why do platforms in the water seem to have a horizon behind them? So I'll go into that in a different video. I'm not going to do it in this one. Yeah, you can see the difference in the two, huh? The flat Earth model versus the curved Earth model. How refraction works and what I believe refraction is. Anyway, I'm going to stop it right there. The rest of the video and the presentation, Randy and Jaren start a discussion on pretty much the whole thing, a nice recap of everything they've been talking about, and they just start repeating themselves after that a little bit. Overall, though, Ranty gives a pretty good presentation. He keeps me interested the entire way, and yeah, I didn't fall asleep. It was actually pretty interesting listening to Jaren and Ranty talk about refraction and what they believe refraction really is. Some things I agree with, other things I didn't agree with. But that's what it's all about, isn't it? So there you go. There's Jonni Glitch's critical look at Ranty Flat Earth's presentation on refraction through the homogeneous Atmosplane. Alright, you guys take care. This is Jonni Glitch on a quest for conspiracy nonsense.